one of the questions that I get a lot is, how did you know when it was the right time to leave? Sales is not necessarily the reason why you should leave your corporate job, or it's not necessarily an indicator that your business is ready. I actually don't recommend that you leave corporate America until you have this in place. So if you're curious what that is, you're in luck, because we're gonna get into it right now. Hey, Courtney Sanders here. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new to me, I'm a full-time certified 7-figure life and business coach, as well as wife and mom. I wear all the hats and do all the things. But before I was this, I was probably like you, someone who worked in corporate America and was dreaming about the day where I could leave to start my own coaching practice. And so I did do that. In fact, I started my own coaching business while I was working full-time and eventually got it to a point where I could leave. And so one of the questions that I get a lot is, how did you know when it was the right time to leave? And I've seen people be on both sides of the fence. Some are like, oh my goodness, you should never leave until you have thousands and thousands of clients plus hundreds of thousands saved up in the bank. And then other people are like, you should leave the first time your boss looks at you crazy. Like, when they look at you crazy, it doesn't matter how much money you have saved up. If you have a client or not, pick up your bags and walk out the door, right? So I like to think that I'm somewhere in between. And I just think with my journey, in fact, how I did it is actually the way that I recommend it. And you'd be surprised, because I actually don't recommend that you leave corporate America until you have this in place. So if you're curious what that is, you're in luck, because we're gonna get into it right now. All right, so my case of when I left corporate America was actually kind of unique, because I was actually making 6 figures in my business before I left, but I stayed for a year and a half, even though my business was making 6 figures, because I didn't have this one thing, right? And I know you might be like, well, it's not sales because you were making 6 figures in your business. Right, it wasn't sales. So hopefully you understand that I'm saying that sales is not necessarily the reason why you should leave your corporate job, or it's not necessarily an indicator that your business is ready for you to leave and to run it full time. And so I say this because, again, I had sales in my business of $100,000. I think I'd made $150,000 in my business while I was working my full-time job. However, most of that money came through low ticket products that I was selling at the time. And so I knew that I could not leave my corporate job just yet, because I didn't really feel comfortable with kind of the roller coaster of how that money was coming in. Some months I wasn't making that much, maybe $2,000, $3,000. And then other months I'd have these launches, and then, I'd make several $1,000s. And so it was kind of this up and down roller coaster. And I knew that I was gonna need more than that, and I was gonna need some consistency before I felt comfortable leaving my job. And so I was like, hey, I'm gonna start moving from low ticket digital products to one-on-one coaching. And in the beginning, it was a struggle. I could not sell my way out of a paper bag. I was so frustrated because I had all these clients who were joining my low ticket programs, and then I would get them on the phone or, go through a sales call, and then they would tell me that they couldn't join my coaching program. And so it wasn't until I hired my first coach, my first sales coach, who really taught me the art of selling as a coach, because it's different than selling in other industries, that I was then able to fill up my coaching calendar. So I was taking clients in the evenings and on weekends. At the time, I think I was charging $3,500 to $5,000 for a package, depending on what type of coaching they were doing. Now hear me, I couldn't sell like $1,500. They were saying no. But as soon as I hired my own coach and got proficient in the art of sales, I was effortlessly selling $3,500 and $5,000 coaching packages. So much so that I ended up having a wait list. And these people had paid in full and weren't even gonna start for several months out. So I was doing this in the summer, in July and August. I had people all the way through October who had paid me in full and were waiting for their turn, essentially, to get one-on-one coaching from me. And that's how I was able to quit my full-time job ultimately, because I had generated enough money selling these slightly higher price coaching packages that I had enough cash where, my husband was even in agreement. He was like, wow, I guess you can quit now. So what was the difference, right, between what I was doing with those low ticket products and then the higher ticket products that made me feel comfortable to leave? Well, the difference, and this is what I say, you should not leave corporate America unless you have it, is, drum roll please, A validated offer. Yes, a validated offer. What I mean by this is it's not enough for you to sell once, or even for you to sell twice, or even for you to have a successful launch. You want to prove that you can sell this on repeat, right? And that this is something that your audience is consistently interested in. And I say this because a lot of people make the mistake of leaving their jobs because they've made some sales, because they've got a handful of clients, or even because they had a really great launch, right? Maybe they had a $100,000 launch and they're like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I made all this money, I'm quitting my job, right? You don't want to quit your job on that type of income or those type of revenue streams, because there's no guarantee that it's going to continue, after the launch is over. You made a few sales here and there. How do you know if it's sustainable? And so for me, I finally felt comfortable leaving my corporate job because I came up with an offer that was validated, right? I had worked with my coach to come up not just with any coaching package, but a coaching package that spoke specifically to the problem that my audience was looking to solve, that got in there and helped them achieve exactly their goals. And it was so popular that it was proven by the fact that I had a wait list well out into October, even though I was selling this program in July. And so I said to myself, wow, this is a validated offer. I'm gonna be able to sell this once I leave my corporate job. And that's how I felt comfortable to do so. So if you were like, I'm growing this coaching business, I can't wait to get out of here, when am I gonna be ready? You're gonna be ready when you have a validated offer. But there are a lot of different things that you need to do ahead of time in order to get that validated offer and to be attractive to those prospective clients, right? You wanna have your branding together, you wanna know your coaching methodology, you wanna make sure that your content is client attractive and that it is consistent. And so if you are looking for support in any of those areas, I invite you to join me in my signature coaching program, the Next Big Name Bootcamp, which walks through this entire process of how you can become the next big name coach in your industry. It literally walks you through my sales process and my process of how I built my business and got to where I am today. Timeless principles, strategies that are working right now. We teach you that all inside of the program. So if you're interested, you can click the link below to apply. And if accepted, you'll be invited to a call with my team of enrollment coordinators who will walk through the entire process with you. All right, thanks so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you loved it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And if you can't wait for my next YouTube video, make sure you're subscribed to my podcast, The Courtney Sanders Show, on both iTunes and Spotify. And if you can't wait for my next YouTube video or my next podcast episode, make sure you're following me on Instagram. It's CourtneyLSanders on Instagram. And with that, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.